The Puck Portfolio with Andy MacNeil.
Hey, welcome to the Puck Portfolio. My name is Andy MacNeil. This show is presented by NorthStar Bets. You can check them out via the link in the description below. It is Tuesday, April 30th. It's snowing here in Edmonton, if you can believe it or not. But yeah, it is heating up in the NHL playoffs, though. We've got 4 games on the docket on Tuesday. Of course, we got the Maple Leafs and the Bruins, the Islanders and the Hurricanes, the Avalanche and the Jets, the Predators and the Vancouver Canucks. I've got my Heartbreak Kid shirt on today because, hey, there's going to be heartbreak in the NHL. At least it looks pretty likely that at least one team, if not more, will be eliminated on Tuesday. So to help me break down this 4-game NHL slate, I'm bringing in Michael Leboff from the Action Network's Line Change podcast. Mike, how you doing, man?
I'm pretty good. Nervous for the Islander game tonight, but still have a few more hours to go before I really click into to pregame mode. So I'm trying to enjoy it before I really start to white knuckle through the day.
Well, let's hold off on talking about something that's a pretty charged topic for you personally, and talk about something that you're probably a little bit more happy about. Now, I know you're not the biggest Boston Bruins fan in the world, but you've got to like seeing them demolish the Toronto Maple Leafs up 3-1 in their series with the chance to eliminate the Maple Leafs on Tuesday. Boston, they closed around minus 140 in game 1. Minus 150 in game 2. Those were the only 2 home games in the series, obviously. Now they're a minus 160 favorite, roughly, heading into game 5. Do you think this line has gotten a little bit out of control here? Do you think the Toronto Maple Leafs are a bet at this point? For me, not quite there yet. But the odds on the Maple Leafs are a lot more attractive than they were at the start of this series. But as we talked about heading into this show, this Austin Matthews storyline is pretty weird, and not really any information coming out from the team besides the fact that they're just going to kind of play it by ear throughout the day and see how Matthews is feeling heading into game 5. What are you looking at here, Mike? Is this one worth betting, or is it just going to be something that you want to just kind of take in the theater of it all?
Yeah, I mean it should be worth betting because, like you said, the game 1 line is the one I was looking at the most, right? Because it was Swayman in goal. It was in Boston, and I know Matthews means more to the Leafs than Nylander, but Nylander was out, so at least you could kind of compare the two. And like you said, like plus 120, plus 124 on Toronto in game 1, and then this line got to plus 140 at a couple places for game 5. So I thought, okay, I'm going to be on the Leafs here, but then it started to ping pong around, and the Matthews situation, like you said, is so weird that I think it might just be one where you might just want to sit out because it is so strange. I bring this up a lot of times here when these kind of strange stories pop up in the NHL or kind of capture the entire sports attention like this one is like, could you imagine if this was happening in the NBA, right? Like pick the biggest
Yeah.
team in the NBA, the Lakers and LeBron James and whoever, like I don't even know who they have anymore. I guess we'll go with the Warriors instead because I can name more Warriors. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson or Kevin Durant back in the day. Like imagine one of them missed the games 1, 2, and 3 with like a mysterious kind of ailment. And then game 4 comes around, they're fighting on the bench, and one disappears for the 3rd period and doesn't come back. And now all of a sudden he's out or possibly out, and they won't really divulge what's going on there. Like the United States would shut down. Like nobody would be able to talk
Yeah.
about anything else besides that happening. So it's one of those situations where like it really tells you a lot about like hockey and like the cultural impact it has, at least this side of the border, because this is I'm thinking about it all day. I'm like, how is this? And I'm almost grateful for the story because it's keeping my mind off the Islanders. But it's one of those situations where like nobody has any answers, and the more that the coach says, like the less I'm like, I believe him. And everybody who covers the Leafs has used the word strange or weird to describe it, which
Yeah.
tells me like they're not buying it either. Like nobody wants to say it out front. I think a lot of that is because of like who owns the team, right? The two telecom companies. So you can't like get too crazy with stuff, but it's so bizarre. And like you said, like I think the theater of it all kind of is like making me push back on even wanting to bet it because I've got no idea. Like, how is this team even going to come out in this game with all this that's going on?
Yeah, one thing's for sure, Luke Fox will have something cringy to say on Twitter, uh, no matter what happens. But yeah, historically, teams with a 3-1 series lead, they've gone to win the series more than 90% of the time. They're 307 and 32 all time. So we'll talk about another team that's down 3-1, and this series a bit of a surprise. I mean, I guess we shouldn't be all that surprised given the stature of the Colorado Avalanche, but this was supposed to be an evenly matched series, and it's been anything but. Colorado, they've outshot Winnipeg 153 to 104. They've outscored the Jets 22-12. Of course, Connor Hellebuck, the Vezina frontrunner, just announced the other day he's allowed 4+ goals in all 4 games. Winnipeg's second line has been pretty much invisible. That's Sean Monahan, Tyler Toffoli, and Nino Niederreiter. They've Nikolai Ehlers finished third on the team in scoring. He has just 1 assist. The second line, they've scored just 1 goal so far. And all of Winnipeg's goals have been scored by 8 players. So just not enough, balanced offense throughout the lineup. They're just getting wrecked by this Avalanche team. Colorado, they've generated 38 shots on goal on average in this series, about 4.2 expected goals per game in this series, according to Evolving Hockey. I started out, I like the Jets at plus 115 to win the series. Based on everything I've seen here, though, I think the Colorado Avalanche team total over 3.5 goals plus 105 is a pretty good look here, considering just how dominant they've been and how bad Winnipeg has played with the lead. So even if they do get out to a good start in this game, I've got little faith in them to hold the lead or keep the Avalanche at bay in that situation. So yeah, give me the Avalanche team total over 3.5 goals plus 105. I'm going to lock that in for a half unit.
Yeah, I'm a little upset with myself. I think I did a pretty bad job just like breaking the series down before it started. I know like the splits looked like good. The head-to-head splits were pointing to Winnipeg. The way that the two teams finished the season were pointing to Winnipeg. So, and I kind of got caught up in all that. When you think about it from just like a matchup perspective, despite the fact that the Jets were so good against the Avalanche, the Colorado eventually, when you're playing the same team over and over and over again, and that team's the Colorado Avalanche, like they're gonna find you out if you've got the flaws
Holes.
like the Jets do down the lineup, right? And
Yeah.
people are lumping on Hellebuck here, but it's one thing to post like all world numbers in an NHL season when you're playing different teams on a nightly basis. But when you're playing a team like the Colorado Avalanche over and over again with some of the best offensive players in the world, it just becomes a completely different expectation from a goaltender, I think. So, but like you, I like the Avalanche here. I think that we saw it last night with the Panthers Lightning game, an angle that I'm trying to exploit in these elimination games. When I like the team that is up 3-1 is just back the puck line. I think like we saw with John Cooper, like they're those coaches are going to be pulling the goalie early, and even if they're down 2 or 3 goals, like they'll be pulling them. And maybe Rick Bowness isn't like that kind of coach, but I still think that there's a good chance that we see Colorado get out to a lead, a goalie get pulled, and this game end up turning into a rout. So plus better than plus 200 on the puck line for Colorado is my favorite bet for this one.
Yeah, nice. I like that as well. And speaking of teams being down 3-1, although there have only been 32 of those comebacks in NHL history, it's actually happened at least once in the playoffs in 4 out of the last 5 years. We had the Sharks defeat the Vegas Golden Knights. They were down 3-0, I believe, but that was in 2019. 2 years later, Montreal defeated Toronto. They were down 3-1 in the series. The Rangers defeated the Pittsburgh Penguins after going 1-3 in the first 4 games in 2022. And then, of course, last year, the President's Trophy, winning Boston Bruins took a 3-1 series lead against the Panthers and eventually lost that one in Game 7. So it's definitely possible. But looking at these matchups of all the teams that are down 3-1 in their respective series, who do you see coming out on top, or who do you see to be the most likely to find their way back and come back in this series? I'm looking at the Predators. I mean,
Yep.
just as far as probability wise. I think they've got the best matchup. I mean, they're playing presumably playing a third string goaltender here in game number 5. Um, but yeah, I think the Preds probably had the best shot here to make this one a series.
Yeah, I was happy that you segued like this because if you were to ask me to break down Game 5 between Nashville and Vancouver, my favorite bet in this game is backing the Predators at 6 plus 610 to win the series. Because if they can win Game 5, get the series back to Nashville, you'd expect the Predators to continue to play the way that they do, and which has been good. Like they've been fine this whole series. I think 3-1 is a little flattering for Vancouver. Credit to them
Oh yeah.
for showing up, right? But like still. I think that the fairest score line of the series is probably 2-2. So if the Predators are able to, the question now is like, can Nashville bounce back from that heartbreaking loss? Like, and as um, people on this side of the glass, right? Like we can't get into the mind of a professional hockey player, but they're so good at flushing things and just looking and focusing on the stuff that they can control. So I'm happy to back them that they do that, and if they do win that game that shows that they're fully engaged in the series, and I like their chances coming back home and getting a win on home ice. And with the goaltending matchup, like you said, playing out like it will for the rest of the series, at least whether it's the Smith or Seelovs, like even with Saro struggling and not being as up to his usual standards, like the Predators still have a distinct advantage in goal. So I think if you think Nashville can win Game 5, I think it's worth just either splitting your stake or just bypassing the Game 5 money line and taking a 6-1 shot on this team. Because if they do win in Vancouver, I think that they've got every chance to rattle off a couple in a row with the goaltending disparity. Because you just don't know. You have no idea how Seelovs and DeSmith are going to handle these situations, and the pressure is only going to get more intense if the Preds do win Game 5.
Yeah, Vancouver was brutal in games 3 and 4, and like you, I think that 2-2 is the fairest kind of series state for this one. But I mean, I think you could argue that Nashville should be the team that's actually should be up 3-1 in this series. Based on how they played in 3 out of the 4 games, I thought they played their worst game in game 2, the game that they won.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a weird series. I don't think this one's going to be over in 5, but the Canucks, they are a slight favorite, so they might get the job done on Tuesday. But I think, like you, I think if you like Nashville, I mean, yeah, that plus 610 is a little bit attractive, I guess. But I think you do just fine with a money line rollover here as well. I mean, you got the Predators at what, plus 105 consensus price, so a 1 unit bet. Now you've got a 2.05 unit payout. You risk that on the Preds in game 6 at what, minus 125 ish probably. Now you got what, 385, 400, something like that to risk on. Or 4 units, sorry, to risk on the Preds in game 7 at presumably a pick 'em or an underdog price, right? So I think that would be a pretty good
Yeah.
look too. But yeah, Nashville, I mean, I just think they've been the better team through 4 games, even if the score doesn't suggest that.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's a good point with the rollover.
And then finally, let's talk about your New York Islanders. So they stayed alive with an overtime victory in Game 4. Gave you something to cheer about. I think if you're handicapping the Hurricanes, if you're looking, if you're kind of counting the Islanders out like I am, and you're looking forward to the second round, you're not really impressed with how Carolina's played in this first round series. They haven't dominated the Islanders by any means. They had periods where they were really, really good. I mean, there was that one stretch where they outshot the Islanders 29-5 through the first or the final 2 periods of, I think it was game 3 or game 2. So yeah, there have been stretches where Carolina's just been as dominant as you'd expect, but I think the Islanders have played pretty good, all things considered. Maybe a little bit unfortunate to be down 3-1 at this point, not down 3-2 or something like that. But yeah, tough test on the road in game number 5 here. Are you gonna bet this one, or you just have too much at stake emotionally?
Yeah, I think I'll probably pass on it just because, like you said, I've got way better than plus 205 emotionally handle, hanging on this one. But I would say that what you said leading up to that question is why I think the Islanders would be the side you'd rather bet here, right? Like you look at the 5-on-5 numbers, you'd expect Carolina against a team like the Islanders to really impose their will, and for the Islanders to have needed goaltending to bail them out or to get lucky and to steal a game or two. But that's not what's happened. Like the Islanders have been full value, I think, for for their win, and they probably deserve, like you said, a little bit more than just the one win on the board right now. It's 6-6 at 5-on-5 in terms of goals. The expected goals aren't as tilted as you'd think that they would be with a team like Carolina against the Islanders. The Islanders have just they've been really, you know, kind of good at hanging in these games and not getting overwhelmed outside of that 30-minute stretch in game two, which I think is getting a lot of attention. And I guess it makes sense now that the series has shifted back to Carolina. But even before that, the Islanders just completely wilted in game two. They were pretty good. They were up 3-0 obviously in that game, and in game one they played a really good game. So they had played like four and a half decent periods in a row in Carolina. Before that, they capitulated, and the capitulation was due to penalties. They just took way too many penalties successfully, and eventually Carolina got on the board, and that just tilted the ice completely. So when you're looking at these numbers, which are basically unchanged from game one and two, it's you wonder why the Islanders aren't getting a little bit more, or the Hurricanes are, I guess, getting a little bit more skepticism in the betting market, given what you said, right? Like they haven't performed well enough now that you'd think, oh, I feel really confident about them as a -140 favorite against the Rangers. Perhaps the numbers tell you that that's where the number should be, or you can even say Carolina should be a bigger favorite. But given what we've seen out of them this series, it's that's a little, dangerous here. So I think the Islanders have probably earned a little bit more respect than being a 2-1 favorite. I mean, I remember talking to you earlier in the playoffs and asking how many times the Islanders had closed at this number, and you said 0, right? They were plus 187 was the highest number that we saw in your database on the Islanders all season
Yeah.
long, and now this will be the third time in the series that they're plus 200, and they played to that number, I would say, in at least one of the games, and then they like, in the game that they didn't, they were already up 3-0, and then, like, just blew it. So
Yeah.
there's enough here, I think, that you can find a way to get to 2-1 odds on the Islanders who've, when you look at the games, right? Like game one was a one goal game with the Hurricanes won it in the third period and then got an empty netter. Game two, Islanders pulled the lead. Hurricanes get an empty netter. So those were essentially one goal games. Game three was a one goal game. Game four goes to double overtime. So it's the Islanders have hung around. So it's
Yeah.
not going to be a fun watch for me at all. And I don't think that they're going to win, but I do think getting 2-1 odds on them is worth a hard look.
Yeah, and like you said, I've got New York actually outscoring Carolina 7-6 at even strength, so not just 5-on-5. But the big problem has been the power play, and it's not that the Islanders' power play hasn't been good. They've actually got the same conversion rate as Carolina. It's just that the Canes have had twice as many
Yeah.
opportunities on the power play. They've had, I think, 14 opportunities versus 7 for the Islanders. So yeah, that's a big problem, and it's going to be pretty tough to win games. If I mean, obviously the Islanders don't draw a lot of penalties, but if they're not drawing a lot of penalties, usually drawing penalties and taking penalties kind of matches
Yeah.
up. But in this series, it hasn't, and it's
No.
been all Carolina, and it kind of makes sense. Obviously, Carolina has so much speed; they possess the puck more, etc. The Islanders are playing more without the puck. There's a lot more opportunities for the Islanders to take penalties. But yeah, they're going to have to try to clean that up heading into Game 5 here because they are capable of defeating the Hurricanes if they can stay out of the box and if they get good goaltending from Simeon Varlamov. But for me, yeah, I'm not willing to put my money where my mouth is here with the New York Islanders. I think the Canes they deserve to be a big enough favorite, not a -245 favorite though by any means. So yeah, I'm going to stand clear of this one. Just stick with the small play on the Avalanche team total over 3.5 goals plus 105. Really appreciate you joining the show with me today, Mike. I wish you and the Islanders good luck, but I also want to just get started on my Rangers Hurricanes second round preview. So a little bit torn, but yeah, I know you want to. I know you want to see some more Islanders hockey. So let's go Isles. It's the
Let's
last
go
time I'm ever
Isles.
going to say that.
Yeah. Hey, that would be great. I'll be at the game on Thursday if necessary. So I'm really nervous.
And to close things out, like we're just both hoping for a Boston Bruins, a
Amen.
dominant Boston Bruins win on Tuesday. That snake John Tavares, he's got 1 goal in 4 games. Strip him of the sea, fire him back to his fire him back to his bed, in his Maple Leafs pajamas. They'll never let him wear that sacred jersey ever again. I don't know what I'm going on about here. I'm just being silly. Anyways, that does it for today's episode of the Puck Portfolio. Just the one bet, Colorado over team total 3.5 goals plus 105. That's a half unit play for me. Of course, I'm riding my Bruins series wager minus 1.5 games, hoping they can get it done in 5 or 6 games at the most. Don't want this one to go 7. Hey, and I've still got a bet on the Winnipeg Jets to win the series, although I'm not very, very confident in that one. Anyway, thanks for joining the show. Good luck with your bets on Tuesday, and as always, gamble responsibly.